Hey guys, welcome to episode 18 of Beyond Local. Today we're going to be talking, allow me to nerd out for a second, all about Schema Markup. This is a podcast that I have basically been talking to Kyle about for several months. But before we dive into that, for those of you that are looking at Kyle right now, you've seen him before on previous podcasts, and I always introduced him as our head of SEO. But between then and now, you've been promoted, and really pleased to congratulate you on being promoted to Vice President of Search, where you now oversee all of the search for the company, including our paid strategies and our SEO. So congratulations on the much deserved promotion. Give us a little bit more about Kyle Kozie. I personally felt when we started to have this discussion about moving you up to the C team, the executive team, it was very clear to me that you were qualified and that your backstory and your background has really led you up to the point now where you could call yourself an executive. So talk a little bit more about Kyle Kozie and kind of what got you to the point here at LSEO.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started my college journey in 2010, and that's the phase where you're trying to decide what do you want to do in life, what do you want to do for your career. And throughout my college process, I think it was in my sophomore year, I realized I want to do digital marketing. I want to work on the internet, work on computers, do all that type of stuff. So I graduated from Penn State in 2015 with a degree in business and marketing. I got an internship at a company in Dallas, Pennsylvania, the back mountain, called DNA, and that turned into a full-time position doing SEO. And it's funny because through that transition from DNA to where I am now at LSEO, I've been part of 4 other agencies. So I think I got a good background of knowing what to do and what not to do throughout that process. And throughout that 5 years from DNA to LSEO now in 2020, I've worked on some of the largest enterprise clients, and we're talking JanSport, Calvin Klein, Reef Sandals, and I've developed strategies for those brands that develop $1 million in organic revenue yearly, all the way down to local mom and pop shops. So I have a vast experience in SEO. I know what it takes to get big brands to where they need to go, and again, local mom and pop shops to the top of Google or organic search.
You know what's awesome is, and I'm going to be completely transparently honest with you right now. So, having been in an SEO for over 20 years, having written a best-selling book on SEO, and really just being obsessed with the industry, you could just imagine from my point of view what it would take for you to convince me that you have all of the knowledge and experience, and particularly the advanced knowledge that I have, and some more. And I remember the first couple months of you joining LSEO, and honestly, I needed a couple of SEO audits done, but I also was kind of trying to get a sense of your abilities. And this goes back 2 years.
Yeah.
I mean, so this goes back a while ago, several offices ago. And dude, I don't want to say I was schooled, but you had complete control over the audit when you were delivering it to me. I did not have to ask for any clarification. You had complete ownership of it, and you also prepared it. And for those that are watching, anyone who's worked with LSEO and gets to work with our SEO team knows this about Kyle. But you, honestly, I think that you have a knowledge not only of enterprise, but across the board that is competitive with anyone in the world. So it's awesome to have you on the C team. Congrats on the VP of Search. Now we get to chat about what is one of my favorite topics, because I kind of think about Schema Markup, and I don't know if this is the appropriate way to think about it or not, but almost as like an advanced cheat, right? So when people think about search engine optimization, they think about it as being like, what are the shortcuts or what are the ways that you could really kind of get yourself to the top of the results. And then we get into things about gray hat, white hat, black hat. But the thing about schema markup, and we're going to peel back the onion here. You're going to peel back the onion for us, is that I honestly believe it is one of the lowest hanging fruits to really drive yourself up the search results. And the reason why I feel that way is because it's probably the number one way that you could drive up your click-through rate when you appear in the search results, by providing more information. But let's dive into it. So let's start with the most obvious question. What is schema markup?
Yeah, so schema markup is code that's injected into your website in the back end. It's basically semantic vocabulary that helps search engines like Google, Bing, Yahoo just learn a little bit more about your website and the pages on your website. So that type of information, or that semantic vocabulary that you're injecting with JSON or code into the back of your website, it tells them a little bit more about your website. Let's say, for instance, you're a local business. It tells them your address, your hours of operation, your social media profiles, even the logo of your website. So if they can't get that from your HTML or the actual source code of your page, that's what structured data or schema markup is there to do. Just give them a little bit more information that they could spice up or enrich your search results.
Sure. I kind of think about the execution of schema markup as an enhanced organic listing. So instead of it being based on Google's scrape of, say, your title tag or your meta description, it expands that real estate that you own on the search engines. And this is why I feel like this is the cheat. This is the ultimate cheat. And I mean that in a positive, strategic sense of how to improve your SEO. And so, right? Am I right in that it kind of enhances your listings? You could pull in data that's relevant to your business, whether it be pricing information, ratings, reviews, other relevant information that Google, again, listen, Google's a machine. It's not a person. Google wants to provide the most relevant search results possible. They have a treasure trove of real-time data that they use to examine whether or not your website should rank over someone else's. And again, in terms of leveraging schema markup to enhance your listing, this is going to drive the clicks and get you in a position to hopefully deliver on your website, et cetera. But this is really at the end of the day one of the it is advanced, but this is one of the most strategic things you could do. So let's talk a little bit more about this enhanced listing concept and what are some of the benefits of schema.
Yeah, so the benefits are exactly what you just said, or you referred to. It enhances your search result. It richens it. That's why it's often referred to as schema markup, structured data, or some people even call it rich snippets or rich data, because that's what it does. It richens your search results. So like you said, it could pull in star ratings, the price. If you're specifically talking about a product, is it in stock versus out of stock? And realistically, what that does, if you think, like, I always use this example, but let's say you're searching for running shoes or a specific type of running shoes, let's say a Nike running shoe, and you know the model you're looking for, and you search that in Google, you're going to get a list of results, probably Amazon at the top, obviously Nike.com, and you might get like a Foot Locker or a Finish Line. And I know Amazon uses it, so let's just use them as an example. But if Amazon, through schema markup or structured data, pulls in the star rating, the price of the shoes, is it in stock, out of stock? If you see those yellow stars, those yellow 5 stars on Amazon's listing, that's going to catch your attention. And they're likely to gain the click over, let's say, the direct competitor who's selling the shoe, Nike.com, because they have schema markup or structured data on their website. That's the benefit. You're trying to get the click over your competitor.
Is there any cost associated that we have to pay Google or anything? So if you don't provide schema markup in your HTML, Google's not going to see it and you're not going to get the benefit. If you provide it with the schema markup, Google is likely to use it and enhance your listing.
Yep.
At no cost.
Nope. Just have to know what you're doing.
You got to know what you're doing, right?
Here's a trivia question for you, though.
Oh, God,
I'll point it back.
No, that's
you.
a different podcast. All right, go ahead.
How many websites on the internet use schema markup?
As a percentage?
Yeah, a percentage. How many?
Okay.
This shocked me when I saw it.
It's probably closer to 3%, but I'm going to say 7%.
Less than 1%.
Really?
Yep.
Unbelievable. And, I think this is one of the areas of SEO that it could be really intimidating if you're a business watching this and you're like, yeah, I want to do it, but how do you find the right person? And actually, this is something as sort of a default that LSEO does for its SEO clients, correct?
Yep.
We're always looking for opportunities to be able to deliver them that enhanced listing at no cost to them. So it's less than 1%.
Yeah,
that's cool. That's like breaking news.
That's why if you're not an SEO and paying attention to schema markup, it's just less than 1%. That means 99% of your competition is not using it. So take advantage of it, spice up your search result, and try to get the click over theirs.
Yeah. And I didn't mention this, but you have written some content on LSEO, on schema markup that we could include in the description of the podcast, right?
Yep.
Okay. And I'd love for you to write more in the future because this is an area that I, for whatever reason, I get really excited. Let's talk about, you did reference some of them. What are some of the different types of schema?
Yeah.
markup?
So there's over 10 different types of structured data or schema markup you could implement on a site. The ones I find the most beneficial, or some of the top ones that we use, are obviously local structured data or schema markup for local businesses. We work a lot with local businesses in the Wilkes-Barre area, but also local businesses throughout the United States in different states. Also, article structured data that spices up your blog post or your news articles that you're putting on your website, tells the users about the date it was published, maybe the breadcrumbs you can mark up to see how you got there, the structure of how you got to that page, and then also how-to structured data. So we know that most searches, or a lot of searches nowadays, are producing that answer box or that position 0 box at the top of search. And how-to structured data, if you write an article like, let's say, how to do SEO, implementing the how-to structured data could help Google understand, all right, this is a how-to article, here are the steps, and that could help them produce that in that position 0 or rich snippet answer box, and get you in there as well. And then also, we talked about it like Amazon and the running shoe example, but product structured data, you need it. If you don't have it, you're losing out in e-commerce.
Yeah, there's got to be more than 1% of websites online have to be e-commerce.
Yeah.
So if less than 1% of the websites are using it, I mean, it just seems to.
Yeah, if you're giving the user information of when they're shopping, of is it in stock, out of stock, the price, the star rating, and they could compare your result to another, like what's your price versus the competitor's price. It's just a no-brainer. You need to have it because you're giving them the ability to shop right from the search results.
When I interviewed Yoast from the Yoast SEO plugin earlier this year, he had said that a primary feature of the Yoast SEO plugin that he was working on, advanced feature we'll call it, is schema. Is it that there isn't more widespread use of it because it's not automated, that somehow Google is unable to just recognize this data and include it? I guess my question is number one, are there any tools or software out there that could automate this for folks that are watching? Number one. And number two, I don't know, why can't Google just grab this data when it spiders your website?
Yeah, so for products, most platforms nowadays are baking it in, like a Shopify or let's say a WooCommerce. So if you have an e-commerce store built on one of those platforms, the theme you chose or however you built the website, it's most likely to be baked in. But some of the lesser ones like local structured data, the how-to, marking up your articles, the breadcrumbs aren't always included. And I think to answer your question, the gap there is schema markup is really an SEO factor, and SEOs know about it. But when you think about people who build the websites or develop the websites, the web developers, it's not at the top of their mind. SEO is not always at the top of their mind. So when they go to build a website or develop a website, they're not thinking about schema markup or injecting that into the source code. So really, you need an SEO or someone who thinks like an SEO to be able to say, hey, schema markup is going to benefit this website. Let's put it in while we're building it or writing out the source code. So I think that's the gap. It's really an SEO thing, but when you think about who builds a website, web developers, it's not always at the top of their mind.
Yeah, it's odd to me that there's like a door that you have to open and go through in order to benefit from it. Yeah. Whereas, when Google sends out its spiders to index your site, that it's not currently consistently able to grab this data and incorporate it. So I don't know. That's something maybe I just need to self-educate on a little bit more, but it surprises me. So you alluded to the fact that SEOs understand that this impacts ranking, but would you actually consider it schema markup a ranking factor itself? How do you think about that?
So the answer to the actual answer to that is no. But if you think about it indirectly, yes, because like we said, the reason you're implementing schema markup or structured data is to enhance your search results. So you're doing it to try and gain the click over a competitor, and Google tracks clicks. They track your traffic. So if you're gaining that click versus other listings that you're going up against on the first page, if you continuously get those clicks, and obviously that's what we're trying to do, spicing up your search result with the schema markup to try and gain the click over a competitor. So the more clicks you're getting, and if Google sees that versus the other listings, they're going to say, all right, this is the result we want to put up at the top because it's getting all the clicks. So the real answer, no, but indirectly, it could, because that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to get more traffic to your website. Google loves traffic. That's why we have things like Google Analytics and Google Search Console, because Google is tracking how many people are coming to your website and are they staying around to make a conversion or visit other pages. So that's the answer there.
Yeah, when I was writing my book, this goes back to 2007. And the first 10 chapters of the book were on SEO, and the last 5 chapters were on pay-per-click. And I always like chapter 15, depending on the series of the book, because there's 3 editions.
Yeah.
That was kind of like a generalist. So I wrote on local SEO, I wrote on like local e-commerce SEO, that kind of thing. But anyway, here's the point. So think about the amount of research and the amount of time, the hundreds of hours I spent on that. What kept coming back to me was that Google's algorithm, when they first launched it back in the late 90s, really was about a advanced analysis of links, right? And that still is a primary ranking factor. No question about it. But here's the point. The point is that what is probably the most powerful data that Google has to determine relevance? CTR, click-through rate. And it just occurred to me when I was writing the book that CTR, the importance of CTR, applies to both organic search and paid search. On the paid search side, the higher your click-through rate, the higher your position, the lower the cost. On the organic side, Google's looking at a lot of different information, but if you leverage schema markup to enhance your listing, and if you drive up your click-through rate, it does become a ranking factor. Now, schema markup provides more than just an enhanced click-through rate, but you're also providing more information for the search user to make a decision as well. So when they're looking at results, if your listing has ratings and reviews and a comparable listing isn't using schema markup and doesn't have that, there's a very, very good chance that over a lot of different views of those ads, the placement with the schema markup will win.
Yep.
So just some closing thoughts. So I feel like schema markup is, when we chat about it, you try to give examples of it, but it tends to be very theoretical.
Yeah.
There's businesses that are watching this podcast to self-educate, but there are also other SEOs, and some of those SEOs, don't have a decade of experience like you. They're newer to the industry. How did you go about learning how to implement schema markup?
Yeah, so I'll go back to my experience. When you're working on larger sites like a JanSport or a Calvin Klein, sure, you could do the basic SEO tasks. Everyone needs that. Optimize title tags, descriptions, making sure the keywords are in there, all of that type of stuff. But you really need to step up your game and figure out what's going to set them apart from other people selling a JanSport backpack or other companies selling Calvin Klein underwear or T-shirts or something like that. So you really have to dive into the technical aspects when you're working on large clients like that and figure out what's it going to take to get them at the top of search, because we know the first page is going to be diluted with competition. How do you set yourself apart from the rest of them? So you have to really dive into the technical aspects of SEO. And that's how I learned how to do schema markup and implement it for some of those larger sites. But then when you see all the different types of schema markup out there, why aren't local businesses or small mom and pop shops also taking advantage of it? So it not only sets the big brands up for success, it sets small websites up for success as well. So it's something that needs to be.
Do you need to learn how to code, or is there enough information on the web to kind of take the base code, and then, do you have to write a script? Is it, how technical does the skill level need to be in order to do it?
Yeah, so the easy answer is if you have some basic HTML skills and know a little bit about coding, you could obviously mess with the code in a text editor and make it yourself. But there's also tools out there. I know on my tools podcast we talked about it, but there's a tool from Merkle that helps you fill out the fields for schema markup, and then it generates the code for you. So you copy and paste, as long as you know or have the skills of where to place it on the website in the source code. So as long as you have skills with, let's say, WordPress or Shopify that knows how to edit the theme code and be able to place it in there, then you know enough to be dangerous. But also just be careful, because everyone knows messing with the code of a theme or something like that could completely break your website. So generating the code for schema markups, not that hard, just knowing how to fill out the fields and what fields need to be inserted in it. But again, there's tools out there to help you do that. Awesome. Thank you for your time. If you guys are looking for one of the quickest ways to improve your click-through rate and move up the search engine results, take a closer look at Kyle's blog post on LSEO and make sure that you're implementing this. Don't be the 99%. Be part of the 1%. We'll see you guys for episode 19.